This is
RedPubPod.
RedPubPod. RedPubPod. RedPubPod.
a podcast from Redhawk Publications.
RedPubPod.
Good afternoon, good morning, good night, good wherever you are out in the podcasting world. This is Robert Knipe from Redhawk Publications. The RedPubPod is on. I am here today with my engineer and par excellence conductor, Richard Eller. Also here with me is local poet and all-around smart aleck, Tim Peeler. And today we are talking to a Redhawk Publications poet, a gentleman named Mike James out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to tell a little bit about Mike here from one of his books, if I can find the author stuff out of here. Here we go. Mike James makes his home outside Nashville. His poetry is widely published in magazines large and small. He has read and performed his work at universities and performance venues throughout the country. His many poetry collections include Portable Light from Redhawk Publications, Leftover Distances from Lucador, Jumping Drawbridges in Technicolor from Blue Horse Publications, and Crows in the Jukebox by Bottom Dog. Welcome, Mike James. Say hi to the Redhawk Publications RedPubPod audience.
Well, I'm so happy to be here, and hello to everybody who's listening.
So today we're going to talk about Mike's new book called Back Alley Saints at the Tiki Bar. It is available as we speak. In fact, Mike, as of this broadcast, you should be getting your copies in sometime today, so you can take them on the road and sell them. It's a it's a really nice, yeah, they ought to be in sometime today. Now, if you're listening to this podcast 2 weeks from now, they're already out. You can find them on Amazon.com, or you can find them on HTTPS RedhawkPublications.com. That's the best place to pick things up, to where our artists make the most royalties and your money goes the farthest. And in fact, right now, if you use the code SPRING23, you can save 20% on Redhawk Publications. So, Mike, Back Alley Saints at the Tiki Bar. What are we looking at here? Are we looking at an original work? Are we looking at a selected poems? What kind of book is Tiki Bar?
So I'll tell you, I have been working on this book off and on for about 6 years, maybe 7 years. I published a lot of books while working on this, but this has really been the something which has been this project that I've had in the back of my mind for a long time. That I've been very, very happy with the support that I've gotten from Redhawk and from so many other publishers. I've been happy with the other books, but this has really been a very special project for me. It's a book that I really felt that I was bringing everything that I had ever learned about poetry to, and that I was really trying to do everything that I know how to do, and addressing issues that I was always very interested in, which is, a lot of iconography in popular culture, and how we relate to that. A lot of things in terms of how we explore different selves and notions of gender and fluidity, and going back into childhood and also. Notions of mortality, that, the childhood is where we start. And as Hemingway correctly noted, all stories have continued far enough in death. So it really is a big book in my mind in every way. I think, I'm very thankful for Portable Life, which is, in many ways my life's work, because it encompasses the work that I published for 30 years and I'm so thankful for all that. But in terms of an individual collection, which is not selected in any way, which is all original work, I really feel that Back Alley Saints is my best book and the book that I was born to write. So that's a long answer to a short question, but I am very Southern, and that's what we do.
That's an excellent answer. It differentiates the two products. Portable Light, which we were very proud to publish a year and a half ago, something like that. It's one of our COVID books because it's one of the books that we worked on during our lockdown. And it is selected poems. There's some new poems in there, but it's selected poems from 1991 to 2021. So truthfully, there are 30 years worth of poems in the book. But Back Alley Saints, like you said, is a new, all new poems in this book. And some very interesting poems as well. I noticed that, like in the first part of the book, you've got this sectioned off, and the sections really don't have titles, but they've got epigraphs. And the very first one has an epigraph from Allen Ginsberg that says, "The moon in the dewdrop is the real moon." And then each one of these poems in here the titles start with the word saint. We've got Saint Candy Darling. We've got Saint James Broughton, Saint Jane Mansfield, which really caught my eye because I've always been a Jane Mansfield fan growing up. Saint Tennessee Williams in New Orleans. Tennessee Williams, another one of my favorite artists. Not only a great playwright, but a great poet and a great writer of short stories as well, and just a great personality. Tennessee Williams. What's the reason for this naming and these design of these poems in this section?
So I've always been very interested in those who operate at the margins, and I think that the best writing and the best art is what Arnold called that criticism of life, and I think you really get that the most from those who are outside of the mainstream. And I think too often, we try to do a very hard line differentiation between the high and the low. And while I'm appreciative of that, I think that the mind and the imagination operate best in a buffet style. And I fell in love with this idea from the filmmaker Jack Smith many years ago, where he talks about personal masterpieces, which are maybe movies or books that you fall in love with, which mean everything to you, but which are not Citizen Kane or are not The Sun Also Rises, but that they really strike such a personal chord with you. And all the people that I reference in this book are my pantheon of secular saints. They're people who have always been a benchmark for me. I say that Candy Darling is my spirit, my spirit animal, which we normally refer to as animals, and I say that about crows as well. But she is sort of one of the patron saints of my life. So, and again, someone who is maybe as recognized as she should be, but who is a key part of those that I'll look at in creating art, and then how I approach a poem and the imagination.
And folks, this book is worth the price of admission just for this section. These poems are the sainthood that Mike you bestow on these characters is fully fascinating, and the things that you write about these people in these poems is equally fascinating. You mentioned Candy Darling. There's a line in here where it says that Candy's drag friend Jackie loved candy, the comic strip Nancy, and vanilla ice cream. What struck me was the comic strip Nancy, because in growing up, that comic strip, for those of you who are old enough to remember Nancy, and Nancy still is published in the paper, but sparingly, and also by another artist, but that artist has decided to retain that kind of oddness that Nancy, the comic strip, always had. Kind of like the comic strip Henry when I was growing up too, which was a textless comic strip about a little boy that apparently didn't even have a mouth. But the things you write about Mansfield and the things that you write about, you got Freddie Mercury in here, Saint Divine of Baltimore and thereabouts. I mean, just fascinating, well done poetry that resonates with me and would resonate with anyone else who is interested in these personal masterpieces. I mean, people who love Russ Meyer movies and things like that, well, some of my Citizen Kane movies are like Russ Meyer films that other people go, God, that's horrible. Why would you think that was a great film? And you actually look at it and say, this is a masterpiece because this guy is just slightly off enough to make all of this stuff fascinating.
And I might add here, I think a lot of people now, younger people in particular, wouldn't even know who Candy Darling was. With Lou Reed gone, with Andy Warhol gone, with that whole scene being something so far in the past, you might even need to explain who that is or who that was.
It's funny. I was raised by my grandparents until I was 11, and or at least live with them until I was 11. And so my frame of reference is a little bit older than my 52 years. And my wife actually pointed out to me, she said, most people your age do not reference Steve McQueen and Liberace. And I have told her, this is not the fault of either Steve McQueen or Liberace. It is the fault of culture. So I do not make any excuses for my references. So that they are not quite as obscure as Ezra Pound's, but they are my own. I'll say that.
And see, this new generation has its own Steve McQueen.
Oh, sure.
The filmmaker Steve McQueen that makes the videos and the films that are the jump cut films. But we recently here in Hickory, North Carolina, where we are based, had a Andy Warhol kind of visiting art piece that came to our local Hickory Museum of Art, and it was well attended by people of a younger age who actually were familiar and are familiar with Andy Warhol.
Yeah, there's a guy in LaGrange, Georgia, that owns most of the Andy Warhol art that's out there, and he was the one that brought it up here.
And see, these younger people can learn about Candy through, if they can get one toehold on one of the people, they can then climb that mountain to learn the other ones. And then it takes us old dudes to get out there and show these people these films and these who these people are. I mean, when I used to be able to teach American Lit at this college, I was constantly teaching Tennessee Williams, and showing them Tennessee Williams plays and teaching them about Tennessee Williams because he was such a fascinating character. Tim, do you have some questions that you'd like to?
Well, I just wanted to make a couple comments. One thing that I've always been impressed with about Mike is the wide swath that he cuts with his own personal reading. And I just have this one little statement here that I want you to respond to. Being a poet means being a lifelong learner, a constant reader. What would you say about that? Because you obviously are.
Yeah, it's funny, Tim. I got appointed poet laureate of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, just the other week, and I have a meeting in about an hour from now with. They're doing a little video interview with me, and it's funny. There's been a lot of conversation in terms of what are you doing to get people to write more. But my pushback that I'm offering is I'm not really trying to get people to write more, but I do want people to read more. Because Saul Bellow said that a writer is just a reader moved to emulate, and I'll tell you, Tim, we're both Carolina boys. One of the best things that I could say happened to me as a teenager was I was able to meet James Dickey, who said, you have to read everything, and you have to read all the time, and you have to know everything. And I was so impressed by Dickey, and he continues to be one of my desert island poets, and I expect him to always be there. But I can't imagine not having the joy of reading and finding all the different things that I don't know. I wish that I had 100 lifetimes to explore all the things that I'm interested in. If I get any irritation with my reading, it is just the fact that I don't have enough time, and make some allowances for that, and that I don't read at the rate that I would like to read. So those are small complaints, but I'm always so thankful for the first library card that I got, for the tutor that taught me to read. I didn't learn how to read till I was 9. I was one of the kids that had fallen through the cracks, and thankfully my mother got me a tutor, and I then had a very good 3rd grade teacher, and I think part of me is always kind of making up for those stories that I wasn't able to read to myself. So I've never really thought about that, Tim. So I appreciate that question, because it does kind of lead me in a different direction.
Yeah, I want to ask you one other thing, and then we want to give you some time to read some from the book.
Okay.
But this is my comment. When I read your work, although it's much more accessible than Tim Early's, and I know you're familiar with his work.
Oh yeah,
it gives me that same feeling of a kind of sublime amusement that I experience when I'm reading Tim's work. And yet, like whenever I'm through, there's a lingering feeling, even after the humor, of an underlying sadness. And would you mind commenting on that? Or do you think that's true? I think even though there's a lot of humor in this work, you have that, there's something tugging at you, like the end of knowledge is always sadness, just like what you said earlier that Hemingway said, ends in death. But do you do that intentionally, or is that just one of those things that happens whenever you're in the zone?
Yeah, I trust that place that we are always trying to go to when we write. That well that conjures up the images, and that the dams that we're always trying to break through. I will say I'm a very fortunate person in that 98% of the time I am in an incredibly good mood, and that I love my life, and I'm so grateful for it. But I do think that if you look at theater and you look at the comedy and the drama, just as I said in this book, there's childhood, but there's also mortality. And I think if we have children and we love children, we want them always to be surrounded by love and joy. But when we look at our own life, we know that there's going to be that sadness, that things will eventually end, and that the laughter will end, and we will not be able to read all the books we want to read. We will not be able to go on all the trips, try all the different hamburgers, kiss everybody that we want to kiss, or give all the I love yous that we want to give. So I do think that there are two different sides of the river, and I'm always trying to swim back and forth across.
And that is definitely true about the poems that are in Back Alley Saints at the Tiki Bar.
Absolutely.
One of my favorites is A Brief History of Distances. It's a really cool poem you've got in here that resonates that kind of feeling. Mother's Old Purse is another one that if you just hear the title and you're of a certain age, you'll realize about what Mother's Old Purse means. You can pick this book up. It is on sale right now for $15 on RedhawkPublications.com. If you use the code SPRING23, that's just all one word together, SPRING23, you can save 20%. So, Mike, you got some poems you want to read to us from Back Alley Saints?
I do. I've got a couple in here. In fact, one of the ones that I had marked to read is actually that St. J. Mansfield that you referenced. So
terrific.
So I'll start with that one. And again, it's called St. Jane Mansfield. When you wear lingerie, don't hide in the closet. Go out and get mail. Greet favorite neighbors. Wave at passing cars like tomorrow's princess. There's an appetite for extravagance we all possess. Think Pink Cathedral. That's worth a day's travel. Think any place where sequins are a must. Spots for glitter are there where we go. Sometimes glitter is homemade. Sometimes we carry our own glitter kit. A quirk not cultivated dies quick. There are days when we live best by a whim. Bubble soak instead of shower. Peach pie instead of toast for breakfast. Pedicure and wax instead of taxman. Beauty from a bottle is still a gift. Be blonde on any day you wish. Looking natural might be the hardest act. Even saints live in excess.
It's terrific.
So that's one. And I'm gonna do one more of my saint poems, and this is Saint Divine of Baltimore and thereabouts, and Divine was for those who aren't aware, was the muse of the filmmaker and writer John Waters, and he was a drag queen in that he didn't really appear on stage as a drag queen, but he always appeared as a woman in the movies. So and was a very large queen. So which was part of my his and her appeal to me. But the poem's called Saint Divine of Baltimore and thereabouts. The heart magic it takes to walk like a man and look beautiful along the way. Quick firecracker reaction love brings. You can't breathe, but want to shout. Swimsuit bodies have swimsuits. At least that's what the advertisement says. Ice cream is eaten for breakfast, but that's when it's served. Still best in bed. Your best gesture may be to sigh. Sometimes breath alone tells more about our eyes. That sounds silly if your lashes are long. Paint with mascara. Breathe with a point. When you buy a purple wig or long black lashes, they are yours. You didn't grow them, but they are yours. The grocery store apple, not homegrown, still delicious. Any song on the radio might hint at who you are. You play along and hum as you go, every roll different. Flossing your teeth might be the best act all day. And I'll tell a little aside on this poem before I read the next one. Our minds work in odd ways, and I always love contrast. But as I was working on this, the line where I talk about the if you own a wig that is yours, that's actually borrowed from John Wayne. He late in life he was invited to Harvard by the student union. This was during the Vietnam War, and they were going to roast him and challenge him and whatnot. But John Wayne was very charismatic and very charming. And he charmed the students while he was there. And one of the students stood up and challenged him and said, "Hey, you're this icon, and you go around and you wear this hair, and the hair's not even yours." And he tugged at it, and he said, "Well, son, it is my hair. I didn't grow it, but I paid for it." So I actually, that occurred to me while I was working on a poem about a drag queen. And it amused me to put the Duke in a poem about another actor who created a persona, but a very different one with the divine.
If I can just interject one small thing here concerning divine, if you've never seen any of the films of John Waters, one of the wonderful things about the charismatic divine was the fact that, okay, it is obviously a man in drag, but the guy was such a terrific and charismatic actor, and Waters' material was so well done that you actually forget that this is a man in drag.
You do. You absolutely do.
He or she becomes whatever character that she is in the film. Mm-hmm. And it was so well done and so wonderful. And I wish in the world that people who have a problem with drag, who have a problem with them reading stories to people and stuff like that, would just look and say, what about the character of this person? What about the personality of this person? And don't pay attention to whether it's a man wearing women's clothes or a woman wearing men's clothes. Just fall into whatever it is as them as a person and just have fun with it. Just enjoy it, because all the performances we got from Divine, this gentleman during a very short life, are well worth revisiting on a regular basis because of how wonderful a performer that Divine was.
Absolutely. I will just say amen to that, Robert. 100%.
Okay. Sorry about that. I just had to say that.
No. We are in complete agreement. And I've got one other poem that I'll read, which is the last poem in the book, and it's called Last Poem. And the great poet Ted Berrigan sort of invented this form, and he said that we should all write one poem that encapsulated our life in a way that would make it sort of joyful elegy. And Berrigan wrote many last poems, one of which he retained, but this is my version of that form. And again, the poem is just called Last Poem, and it's the last poem in the book. No basketball or tool was ever my friend. My heart was large, but slow. Everyone knew when I missed a beat. The things I knew were small and unsubtle, particular as dates in a history book or weather forecasts in an almanac. I was fine with it. Fine also with rain, snow, and sun. I loved all cycles, believed in the calendar as fiercely as a fresh convert. Once, as a boy, I saw Goose Gossage pitch and remembered that swaggering fact each spring. A little older, shook James Dickey's mighty paw, watched my own hand disappear. I went to concerts, heard Clapton, heard Dylan, stayed awake all night, each time afterwards, so my mind still hummed electric at morning. Despite it all, I never learned to dance or even walk with anything Arthur Murray would call grace. I drove across many states, lost many maps, asked for directions, told stories, flirted and further lost my way, ate pickled eggs, hot dogs, boiled peanuts, and fried chicken at gas stations from Maryland to Louisiana. After many stops, made a home at 549 Ruby Oaks Lane, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 37128. All my life, there were many friends, though some left early. My children stuck around, gave more joy than tears by overwhelming percentages. My children were numerous and avowedly profane. Among the many women there are to love, there was only one, which was enough. In love's abundance, I grew large and round. My voice coarsened, and my laugh could be heard 4 rooms over or across a football field. When the end came, it was swift and without gasp or pain. On a late summer night, the television on past normal time. A cat jumped in my chair, eager for affection. By then, I was wordless and quietly gone. Let none who love me well or long think of my end.
That was great.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Thank you.
I mean, if any poem would be a worthwhile elegy to a poet or a person, that would be it, because I identify with so many of those lines in that poem. No sport or tool was ever my friend. And grace, no, I can't even claim. Just stumble around into things, and graceless in movement and body, and graceless in speech.
My one of the things that I tell people, I have revised some of my statements over the years. That I used to say that we're always bad before we're good, and then I watched a documentary on Paul Gauguin, and I saw the first painting that he did, and it was amazing. And they said, we have no idea. He never served an apprenticeship. So now I say most of us are very bad before we're good. But as a tie-in, I say, we generally get better when we work at things. But in my youth, I spent a solid year trying to become a good basketball player, and I think I was worse after a year than I was when I started. And I am the worst basketball player in my family. So it's not something that I play a lot with the kids. So you and I are on the same page, Robert.
So the dude that says that if you practice for something for at least 10,000 hours, you will become an expert in it is full of crap. Because I thought that same thing. Yeah. I think you have to have some inkling of talent. And again, if you love playing basketball, be bad at it. I'm not a very good chess player, but I enjoy it. But I almost never win. So, well, one thing you win in is the movement of words. Mike James, thank you so much for being with us today. Redhawk Publications is very proud to have published portable, light, new and selected poems, but we're here today to talk about his new one, Back Alley Saints at the Tiki Bar. Brand new poems from Mr. James, the Poet Laureate of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, now, which we're very proud to say congratulations on that. Tim, do you have anything else that you'd like to cover, go over?
I don't think so.
Mention?
We're getting close to the end.
Mike, you got anything else you want to tell the folks out there? You got any readings lined up or anything like that?
There's two. I've got a book launch in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the middle of next month.
Wow.
The wonderful poet and a very dear friend of mine, Michael Worster, had wanted to organize that. So I'm driving up to Pittsburgh that weekend with my oldest child who's driving me up there. So we're looking forward to that. I lived in Pittsburgh for 7 years, so it'll be a really nice homecoming. And I am teaching a class at the Southern Literary Festival at Middle Tennessee State University second half of April, and I'll be signing some books there afterwards. So I don't have the opportunity to teach very much. I don't have an opportunity to talk to a lot of college students. But I'm always thrilled when I do. So I'm really looking forward to both of those events next month. One seeing some old friends and one making some new ones.
Well, that's
looking
fantastic.
forward to all that.
That's fantastic. I'd love to hear that you got a full plate full of stuff. And please, all you people out there in podcast land, keep an eye on our Facebook page at Redhawk Publications, where we will post as many of these occurrences as Mike sends us. We will pass those on to you where you can find him, see him, meet him in person. Also, remember his books are on sale at redhawkpublications.com. Again, thanks to Richard Eller, who's running the board here. Thanks to Tim Peeler. And thanks to Mike James for
Good to see you, Mike.
beaming yourself all the way from Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Good to see you guys. Good to be here. Thank you for giving me a few minutes and for the great questions. And you guys have a great rest of your day.
You too. I just need for you to sign off by saying RedPubPod.
RedPubPod.
There you go. Peeler, you got a RedPubPod in you?
RedPubPod.
There you go. Thank you all out there for listening to us. We appreciate it very much. Please look for RedPubPod podcast all over the places you get your podcasts, and we will continue doing them as long as you want to listen to them. Thanks a lot, everybody, and we will see you on the other side.
This is
RedPubPod.
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 a podcast from Redhawk Publications. RedPubPod.